Hello everyone, if you're new to my channel, consider liking and subscribing. It will make me feel wonderful if you do that. Thanks. By the way, I also have another Naruto and Luffy fanfiction channel. If you are interested, link is in the description.
Race to Paradise Island, Save the Pirate King by Peace and Love 88. When the Straw Hats are attacked by a marine branch, Luffy is gravely injured. With their captain's life hanging in the balance, can the Straw Hat crew reach help in time? Or will they have to say goodbye to the future king of the pirates? Big shout out to the warlords of this channel: Native Warrior, Claude Liff Race, Neo Wesker 23, Derek Dowdy, Zazu Sayaz, Abdul Rauf Ali, In3WT, What If Lord, Black Money Young Leon, Garrick Russell, Ben Brownlee, Case Clark, Tristan Ward, KSGPL4YZ, Brian McKenzie. You know who you are. Want to stand with them? Join the channel membership and show your support. Adios!
Nami's pub. Well, this is the place, said Ace. Who are we supposed to be looking for again? No idea, I said sheepishly. The old man just said to meet his friend here. Relax, Nami, my sweet, said Sanji. We stand out in the crowd. The guy probably knows who he's supposed to be looking for. I wonder what kind of security we'll find at the temple, worried Chopper. If we meet any security, we're at a disadvantage, said Frankie, scanning the crowd. What with two of our best fighters being incapacitated? That's true, but Ace is here too, said Usopp. The queen might not help us if we beat up all her guards, I warned. Before Sanji could answer, Frankie poked me. Guys, tell me if I'm wrong here, but doesn't that look like Percy? He asked, pointing at a guy sitting on a bench next to the statue. It is Percy, said Chopper, startled. I squinted. Sure enough, the doctor who saved Luffy's life, and tended to Luffy, Zoro and Usopp during our stay on Paradise Island was sitting on the bench, grinning at us. Hey guys. Bet you didn't think we'd meet again so soon, he said with glee. Well, yeah, I said, dumbfounded. What are you doing here? Mr. Percy, said Robin. Would you happen to be the guide we're looking for? Percy just grinned ever harder. Yup. The stall owner Nami talked to back in town's my old man. I took a week off work to come visit him, and he told me I had to meet a group of cursed pirates here and show them to the Temple of the Moon Queen. Guess it really is a small world after all, said Usopp. All that set aside, said Percy. Do you have the map that Pops gave you? Here, I dug it out of my pocket and handed it to him. He spread it out on the seat beside him and pointed to a point at the base of the mountain. Here's the path that we'll be taking. He traced his finger up a narrow line, until it reached a fork. We'll continue up this path until we reach here, where the road splits. The left path is a lot longer than the right one, but there are all sorts of ancient booby traps on the right path to protect the temple. Then we should take the path on the right, said Ace. If it saves time, we should take whatever shortcuts we can. Didn't you hear him correctly? I asked him through clenched teeth. There are booby traps. We could wind up sustaining damage before we've even reached the temple. We'll just have to take that risk, Nami, said Ace. Luffy and Zoro don't have much time left. Exactly, said Frankie. I agree with Mr. Ace, said Robin. We're running short on time here. If you're worried that the curse goes in order, and you're the next one to go, then don't be. We're here to protect each other. We'll watch your back, Nami, said Usopp. The more time we can save getting to the temple, the better. What temple? Asked Luffy. The Moon Queen's temple that we're going to so we can rescue Luffy and Zoro, duh, said Usopp. Where have you been all this time? Asked Chopper exasperatedly. Honestly, I said, turning back to Percy. Oh, okay, said Luffy. We froze, and turned to look at the person standing behind our little circle. Luffy. We screeched. Luffy winced at the loud noise. Yo. What are you doing here? Chopper demanded. You're supposed to be back at the ship with Zoro, and not out of bed. But Zoro's here too, see? He panted, showing us the unconscious man he was carrying on his back. You carried Zoro the whole way here? Robin asked gently. And no, Luffy said, then crumpled, falling forward into Ace's arms. Zoro carried me the first half, he said sleepily. Now what do we do? Asked Frankie to the group at large. We'll have to take them back, I said. Chopper, take them back to the ship, and wait with them there. They obviously still. No, this is good, Percy interrupted. They're coming with us. This just saves us the trip to go and fetch them. The Moon Queen won't bless you unless you're all there. Fine, said Ace, standing with Luffy on his back. Let's go. Sanji knelt down and scooped Zoro onto his back. Yeah, who knows, maybe I'll hit it off with the Moon Queen. But she's a queen and on the moon, Usopp argued as they started marching toward the path. Percy and I decided to bring up the rear. I'm glad, said Percy. Glad I got to meet all of you again. Why don't you join us? I asked him. We have a lot of fun with our adventures, even when we come so close to death. I'm sure Luffy will welcome you on board immediately, just as soon as he recovers. Percy chuckled. I'd love to go out to sea more than anything, but I've already got a job, and a home back on Paradise Island. Luffy wasn't the first foreigner who stumbled through the doors of the hospital I work at. We get wounded pirates and marines there all the time. And you feel obliged to stay and treat them, I finished for him. Not really obliged, said Percy, glancing over his shoulder to make sure that we weren't being followed. It's more like I want to help them. It's my job as a doctor. Besides, he added, looking at Chopper. You've already got a fine doctor with you. Yeah, I said. We do. Percy froze. Percy? What is it? I asked urgently. Are we being followed? Everyone stop right now, he ordered, but he was too late. Usopp had already taken a step forward and fallen into the classic spiked pit trap. Usopp, shouted Chopper. A familiar, rubber hand shot past him into the pit and came back up again with Usopp clinging onto it. Usopp, muttered Luffy before collapsing against Ace's back from exhaustion. Thanks LL Luffy. Usopp chattered. I vote that Mr. Percy leads the way, said Robin. Good idea, I said, clutching my hand over my heart. Fine, said Percy. How about we go in pairs? Nami and I will lead, Robin and Ace go directly behind us. Then Chopper and Sanji, and Frankie and Usopp guard us from the rear. A smart formation, said Robin approvingly. Putting the ones with navigational expertise in the front, the ones with sniping abilities in the back, and assigning Chopper and me to guard Ace and Sanji, who are carrying Luffy and Zoro. Very well then. And so, we marched on in our new formation. I need you to keep a lookout for traps, said Percy. Why are we moving like this? I asked curiously. Honestly, I was so nerve-wracked right now, and I needed to talk to someone to take my mind off the task in front of us. Well, it's like Robin said Percy. You and I are leading so we can look out for traps. Frankie and Usopp are tailing because Usopp's a sniper, and Frankie's got a built-in machine gun. Both of them are in back to make sure we're not being followed from behind, or from above on the cliff next to us. Sanji and Ace can't fight right now since they're carrying Luffy and Zoro, so Robin and Chopper are walking next to them to guard them, he explained. Oh, okay, I said. Percy, how close are we to the temple? Called Frankie from the back. Percy pointed at the entrance to a relatively unimpressive-looking building at the top of the path. Just this final stretch and we're at the temple. Surprisingly enough, we encountered no other traps on the last length before the temple. When I voiced this thought aloud, our resident ball of sunshine Portgas Dace shot me down, saying, that just means that there's more security waiting for us inside. We had reached the entrance to the temple. The entrance was barely big enough for someone Frankie's size to fit through. The temple itself seemed to be inside the mountain, and the entrance led to a short tunnel. I could see the first room from where we stood. Follow me inside, said Percy. With that, we ducked inside the entrance and entered the first room of the temple. We should take the path straight ahead, said Percy. The room we're looking for is at the heart of the mountain. Before we could take another step, an unknown voice boomed through the chamber, seemingly coming from nowhere. You have trespassed on holy ground. Now you will pay the price. A set of tiles on the ground we stood on vanished, shouted Usopp. We'll be able to meet up with him later, said Percy, grabbing onto Robin and Frankie. They're trying to divide us, we need to. He never finished. A giant, stone fist shot out of the gloom of the passage on our left, grabbed him, Robin, Frankie, and disappeared again. And then now what? Stuttered Usopp, cowering behind Sanji. You think I'm done yet? Asked the voice from before bemusedly. A mini twister materialized in the center of the chamber, heading straight for our group of now 6, sucked up an abandoned Luffy, and ripped Zoro from Sanji's back. Luffy! Zoro! I screamed. Then I felt myself yanked off my feet into the twister. I remember Sanji shouting, Chopper crying, and Usopp looking at me helplessly. Then everything went black. Robin's pav. I remember entering the temple. Percy grabbed Frankie and me. Then we were snatched away into the darkness. What were we doing here? Oh, we were saving our friends. My eyes snapped open. Glad to see you back with the living, Nico Robin, said Frankie, offering me his hand. Accepting it, I allowed myself to be pulled to my feet, and finally got a good look at our surroundings. Cracks of light shone through the questionably sturdy ceiling. We were completely alone. The mysterious hand that separated us from our friends was gone. Percy, where are we? What happened? And what was that thing that grabbed us? I asked. That? Asked Percy, standing up while dusting off his pants. That was one of the ancient traps set around this place. The initial design is meant to separate a group. After that, we'll face even more traps. The idea that the village's ancestors had was simple really, divide and conquer. So basically, Frankie started. We need to find the others, and fast, Percy finished. Find the others? Came a voice from behind us. We turned to face the newcomer. Ghostly blue versions of Mr. One and Miss Doublefinger were leaning against the wall, watching us with interest. What makes you think you'll be able to leave this room alive? Meanwhile with Ace's pav. Well, this is annoying. I can't see anything without keeping a constant flame going. I grumbled, dodging another swing. Just who the heck is this guy anyway? And why is he blue? None of your business, Firefist, shouted my mysterious opponent, stopping in mid-jump, allowing my punch to make contact. At least, I thought it made contact. That won't work on me, my opponent chuckled. The next thing I knew, I was sent flying backwards into the wall. You bastard, I growled. What the hell are you? Meanwhile with Usopp, Sanji, and Chopper Sanji's pav. When the twister appeared, it felt like time itself had froze. But after it took Nami and the guys away, I remembered how to use my legs. Get back here, you freak of nature, I shouted. But it was no use. The passage that it had gone down had caved in, making entrance impossible. Come on Sanji, we need to stick together, said Usopp. Before he disappeared, Percy said, they're trying to separate us. He pointed at the passage on the other side of the one Nami and the others disappeared through. Percy's group is heading towards the center chamber. So is Nami's group, and Ace. I'm sure of it. That's where we need to go. Do you know where it is? Asked Chopper, rubbing his eyes. Can't you two feel it? Asked Usopp. I can feel something, I don't know what it is, but it's something big. It's coming from that way. Fine, I said, giving the collapsed passage one more kick for good measure. Lead the way. Oh no, came a non-too-familiar voice from the passage Usopp was pointing at. There's no time, no time, no time. You need to die, 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 die. Now. Let's go, Mr. 4, said a strangely blue Miss Merry Christmas to her equally blue partner Mr. 4. Okay, said Mr. 4, heaving his bazooka into place. Usopp, Chopper, get away, I shouted, barreling at them. Miss Merry Christmas foiled my brilliant plans, coming out of the floor in full-on mole mode, and sending me crashing into the ceiling. You'll never leave this room alive. Never, she cackled as I fell to the ground, my head throbbing horribly. Meanwhile with Nami and the two invalids Nami's pav. Why me? I asked aloud. Why am I the one who has to protect Luffy and Zoro by myself? After the twister thing had dropped us in this room and vanished, I had dragged both Luffy and Zoro behind a pile of rubble. Now I was doing everything in my power not to panic. We were alone. I had no idea where we were. An enemy might appear at any second, and fresh gashes had appeared all over Luffy and Zoro. I had been cut too, but Zoro's body shielded me from the brunt of it. Why am I panicking? I said, standing up. The mission's still the same. We still have to get these two knuckleheads to the center room of the temple. This just backtracks everything a bit. My new feeling of positivity sank as I looked down at my two best friends. I knew that there was no way I would be able to carry both of them by myself without hurting them. Think of what they would do in this situation, I reminded myself. They'd have already noticed me, growled a voice from the opposite end of the room. Eep! I squeaked, ducking back behind the rubble. I realized too late that this wasn't a smart idea. The pile exploded, a very blue crocodile looming at me like a bad dream. What the hell? I screamed. Nami's paw. I ducked as crocodile made another slice at my head with his poisoned hook. Why do you continue to leave yourself open? He asked, slashing at my shirt. I smacked his hand away before the hook could tear at my skin. Ignoring him, I brought my climb attack down on his head, only for it to go straight through him again. What are you? I panted. Why, my dear, don't you recognize me? He asked jovially after I had ducked behind another pile of rubble. I am Crocodile. No, you're not, I said, putting the end of my climb attack to my mouth. Cool ball. Whatever you're doing is pointless, girl, the fake crocodile snarled. I just have to stall long enough for them to condense, then I can electrocute this bastard into oblivion, I thought. Then Crocodile noticed something behind a particularly large pile of rubble. What's this? He bent over and came up clutching Luffy and Zoro by their shirt collars. I felt my heart drop into my shoes. I had completely lost track of where I had put Luffy and Zoro. Fresh meat, he purred, closing his fingers around Luffy's neck. Don't touch him, I growled, gripping the climb attack harder. I just need more time. Oh, so, you're offering to go first, are you? Trying to save your boyfriend? Crocodile teased. He threw Luffy to the side. Luffy hit the wall, then crumpled like a rag doll. Or maybe the green-haired one should perish first, he suggested, yanking the lifeless form of Zoro off the ground by his arm, bringing him to face level, and caressing Zoro's cheek with his hook, leaving a fresh cut in its place. That was when I saw red. I remember charging at the bastard, bringing the climb attack down on his head, and the hit making contact. I said don't touch him, came a shrill scream. Later, I realized that the scream was coming from me. Get off me, you insolent little brat, snarled Crocodile. I couldn't hear him. Maybe I just chose to block it out, but the only thing I could hear or see was a roaring wave of red fury. I felt something grab my hair, then the world of red melted back into reality. You'll pay for that, Crocodile growled, mere inches away from my face. How did he get that close? Moreover, why does my head hurt so much? Oh, Crocodile had grabbed onto my hair. Before I had a chance to react, he had slammed me into the wall, and hard. Lights burst in front of my eyes. No, I can't black out now. If I do, Zoro and Luffy. Crocodile's other hand closed around my throat, lifting me up off the ground. I gripped Crocodile's arm. I won't give up, I choked. There are lives riding on my survival. What are you blabbering about now? Crocodile snapped. Just die already. No, I shouted, and I kicked Crocodile in the face. Crocodile cried out in pain, dropping me in the process. I landed on my feet, bringing Crocodile to his knees with another kick. They saved me, I said, lowering my voice. Over a year ago, they saved me from my solitude. They brought me with them. Together we set out to the sea, bringing nothing but each other and our dreams. I brought the end of the climb attack to my mouth. Now it's my turn to save them and their dreams. Heat ball. The red balls of heat floated out of the climb attack and up to the ceiling to join the now condensed cool balls. I leapt out of the way, landing right in front of Zoro. Perfect. Wait, what are you doing? Demanded Crocodile, unable to move. Today's forecast is slightly cloudy, folks, I said, raising the climb attack over my head while twirling it in a steady circle. Haven't I already told you it's pointless to fight me, girl? Said Crocodile shakily. His voice shook with fear of the unknown. Now why don't you just put down your staff and we can settle this in a civilized. With a large change of storms, I said maliciously. Thunder tempo. An onslaught of lightning crashed from the black cloud onto Crocodile. Ah! Crocodile shrieked in pain. Now I bet you're thinking this is over, right? I beat the weird crocodile phantom, it died, and I went on my merry way to the center chamber to find my friends. Since when is my life ever that simple? A rogue strand of electricity shot from the cloud straight at me. I could have stepped out of the way, but Zoro was still behind me. This is gonna hurt, I said through clenched teeth. The electricity hit me full in the face, making my vision go white for a minute. I gritted my teeth even harder to refrain from screaming. It felt as if every nerve in my body was on fire. When my vision cleared again, I was on my knees, a very crispy-looking crocodile standing over me. Even though he wasn't completely solid, and definitely not a real person, The killing intent rolling off of him made me want to sink to the ground and cry in desperation. A bold effort, he hissed, bringing his fist above his head, but pointless in the end. I flung my arms out to my sides, shielding Zoro from view. You try touching either of them one more time and I promise you this. I will wait for you in hell. There, we'll finish this. I look forward to it, Crocodile said smoothly, but for now, I win. My survival instincts brought my fists in front of my face for defense, waiting for a blow that never came. You fool, your life would have been spared if you had stuck with playing dead, I heard him say. There's a difference between playing dead and being dead, said a voice so filled with murderous rage that I chanced a glance over my fists. What I saw made me want to cry with a mixture of joy and despair. Since you hurt one of my best friends, you'll know the difference very soon, growled a very much awake Monkey D. Luffy, Crocodile's fist held at a stand still by his own hand. Luffy, I gasped. What are you doing? You're too hurt to be fighting. I started this fight, I can finish it. I felt a warm, rough, familiar hand clasp me on the shoulder. That's it. I can't take this anymore. I burst into tears. You did well, Nami, said Zoro, getting to his feet. But after all this time, you should know by now. You don't have to do it on your own. That day, when the three of us made the promise, said Luffy, lifting Crocodile into the air, and throwing him against the wall. We promised each other to chase our dreams through the whole Grand Line, to One Piece and beyond together. We promised that none of us had to be alone anymore, because we were together. All three of us, said Zoro, unsheathing two of his swords. I got to my feet, my climax back in my hands. Yeah, I said, tears still unwillingly streaming down my face. Please, I beg of you, spare me. I could be of use to you. Is it treasure you want? Gold? Jewels? I can give it all to you. Just please, spare me, Crocodile whimpered as we advanced. Together, I smiled, and we brought our weapons down on the enemy. Instead of standing back up again, Crocodile's head lolled forward onto his chest. His ghostly blue body flickered and disappeared. We collapsed back onto the ground. The three of us sat against the practically destroyed wall, gazing up at the gloomy ceiling. What just happened? Luffy finally asked, breaking the silence. No fucking idea, said Zoro. I giggled. What's up with you? Zoro demanded. I tried to stop, but the stress of this entire mission was just too much. I started to laugh. It felt good to be with them again. The three of us were alive and joking, just as we had been doing since the day we met. Luffy grinned and started laughing along with me. Zoro just sighed and pressed his thumb and forefinger between his nose, massaging his temples. Say, Nami, said Luffy, still chuckling, where are we? On a deadly mission to save your lives and prevent the rest of us from getting beat up and sick, then killed, I said. All three of us burst out laughing. I must really be wasted this time, Zoro chuckled. I can't remember anything after falling asleep in Luffy's room on Paradise Island. Nah, you just have really bad luck, I giggled. I'm glad you're laughing again, said Luffy, sobering up. You were crying earlier. Were you fighting that guy by yours? Said. What are you trying to say? He means that day when we met you, and set out together to really begin our adventures, we made a promise, said Zoro, smiling. He took my hand in his own, warm and strong hand. We promised to always have each other's backs, said Luffy, taking my other hand and leaning on my shoulder. To help make each other's dreams come true, I said, leaning against Zoro, and resting my head on his shoulder. To follow Luffy beyond the horizon, said Zoro, resting his head on mine. And that we would never have to be alone again, because we had each other, our new best friends, Luffy finished. We're such nostalgic fools, I sighed happily. We haven't changed a bit. You're the one who tried to protect us by yourself, Luffy retorted. I know, I said, gently squeezing his hand. And I'm sorry, but one thing has changed. What do you mean? Luffy pouted. You two don't have to shoulder all the pain by yourselves anymore, I said firmly. Whether you allow me to or not, I will share the pain with you. I'm strong enough to fight beside you now, not from behind your backs. Of course you are, Nami, said Zoro. You always have been strong, said Luffy. From now on, we share everything together, Captain's orders. Yes, sir, we said. Now what? Zoro asked. He tried to stand up, but found that his body didn't like that idea. Luffy slid even further down the wall. Well, they're still sick after all. First of all, I said, helping Zoro into a kneeling position out of range of Luffy or me. If you're going to throw up, you're not doing it on us or your clothes. Sure enough, Zoro's eyes rolled back in his head, and vomited some sort of translucent liquid mixed with what looked like stomach acid and blood onto the ground. I would say that you need to eat something and try to keep it down, but I don't have any food, and there's probably nothing left in your stomach to keep down, I joked half-heartedly, helping Zoro back into his position against the wall. Zoro started shivering violently. Nami, what's happening to me? He asked desperately. I already told you, I said, placing my hand against his forehead. You're sick. We're here in this death trap to make you better. This is bad. His temperature has rocketed upward. Luffy chuckled, then made a horrible retching noise, doubling over, and throwing up blood and stomach acid all over the ground. You too, idiot, I said, lifting his hat off his head, and placing it next to him. I ran my hand through his hair, and down to his clammy brow. Like Zoro, his temperature had climbed to an alarming degree. Your hand feels nice, said Luffy, sighing in relief. Where's Chopper when you need him? I grumbled, can you guys still hear me? Yeah, but you need to speak up, said Luffy, Zoro nodding in agreement. You keep getting farther away, Zoro added. If you want to tell us something, you need to stay still. I sighed. Fine. Here's the plan. We're in an ancient temple right now. We need to get to the heart of the temple. When we get there, you guys will be cured, but neither of you are in any shape to move, and I can't carry both of you. Luffy used the wall to pull himself to his feet. He bent over and pulled Zoro to his feet, slinging an arm over his shoulder. Lead the way, he ordered, grinning half-heartedly. I give up. These two are hopeless. Fine, I said, slinging Zoro's other arm over my shoulder. I pointed to the exit across from where we had been brought in. We're going that way. You two had to take turns, okay. Wouldn't have it any other way, said Zoro. Let's go, said Luffy. The three of us faced the exit, just as we had faced the sea all those months ago, fresh, and eager to start our adventures. Together, I asked. Together, they answered. For a reason to go even closer to my evident doom in order to save my best friends' lives, that was good enough for me. Sanji's Pav. As I ran for my life from explosive baseballs and a demonic mole lady, I kept asking myself the same question I've been asking myself for almost 6 months now. How did I get myself into this mess? Jump now, Chopper warned. Too late, Miss Merry Christmas had already grabbed onto my leg. Too late for that, raccoon thing. Miss Merry Christmas cackled. Mr. Four, bat now. Four, shouted Mr. Four, smacking the freak of nature Mutt Lisu's next barrage of baseballs in my direction with the force of a barreling freight train. Sanji. I heard Usopp yell. Before I blacked out, I came up with a new question. Why me? Usopp's pav. I saw the barrage hit Sanji in slow motion before remembering how to use my legs. Sanji, I yelled, running at Miss Merry Christmas. No 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 no. Miss Merry Christmas whined, flailing Sanji's limp body around like a rag doll. He's still alive, Mr. Four. Do it again, and kill him this time. Huh? Mr. Four asked, scratching his head. Now's my chance, I muttered, loading my slingshot. Special attack, Flame Star. On one hand, Mr. Four ducked back into his mole hole. On the other hand, the Flame Star hit Lisu. No 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 no, shouted Miss Merry Christmas. You're not supposed to take out Lisu. Get up, Mutt. Get up. Get up. Now now now. What are you waiting for? Get up now now now, she whined, hitting the unconscious dog with Sanji, the latter of whom was still unconscious. Chopper poked his head out from behind the column, and held up one finger to silence me. He pointed at himself, then Sanji. I got it, Chopper, I thought. I'll take out Mr. Four while you get Sanji. But the trick is figuring out how to hit him. He just keeps disappearing back into the holes. If only I had some sort of homing star. I could shoot it into one of the holes and... I did a face palm. Seriously, Usopp? Come on, Usopp, I growled. Use your head. What did you say, String Bean? Miss Merry Christmas demanded. Hey, your fight's over here, Mole Lady, Chopper roared, plowing head first into her. Gah! Mole Lady cried out in pain, landing head first in one of her holes, and sending Sanji flying across the chamber. Well, this works even better, I said, notching my new ammo in my slingshot. Chopper, steer clear of the holes. Right, said Chopper, diving behind a column. Here goes nothing. Special attack. Exploding torpedo star. I fired 8 of the torpedo stars into 8 different holes. Chopper, get down, I warned, sprinting across the room, scooping up Sanji and ducking behind another column. Bang, 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 came an ear-shattering explosion, filling the room with smoke. I chanced to glance around our column to see Mr. Four and Lasso vaporize into nothing. Miss Merry Christmas, however, was crawling out of a hole, bruises and singe marks all over her transparent-looking, blue body. You think this is over? She panted. You won't make it out of this temple alive. You would be much better off letting me kill you. I think we'll have to take a pass on that one, said a very welcome voice from next to me. Sanji! Chopper cried in delight. You're awake. Sanji untangled himself from me, stood up, and lit a cigarette. He strolled very nonchalantly towards the mole lady. Lady, normally this goes against all of my principles, he said, stopping in front of her and bringing up his leg. But, he said, bringing his leg down on her head like an axe. With a wail, Miss Merry Christmas vaporized into nothingness. That's for keeping us away from our friends, he hissed, taking out his cigarette, and flicking it at where she used to sit. Sanji! Chopper cried, shrinking and tackling him in a bear hug. What just happened? Sanji asked, sinking down the wall to the ground. You were knocked out with exploding baseballs, I said, joining him on the ground. You blacked out. Miss Merry Christmas used you as a rag doll for a while. Then we blew everything up, and destroyed Mr. Four and Lasso. Then you destroyed Miss Merry Christmas. Are you sure? Sanji asked, massaging his temples with one hand. Everything was swimming around a bit. I still can't really remember it very clearly, but weren't they blue? Yes, said Chopper. They were most likely very realistic holograms set up to prevent us from reaching the center chamber. Really? Asked Sanji. I don't know. What were we talking about again? I did another face palm. Sanji, I scolded. Pay attention. Easy Usopp, said Chopper. Sanji, could you lie down for me? I want to check something. Sanji obliged. Chopper leaned over him and put up his hoof. Sanji, I'm going to move around my hoof. I need you to keep looking at it, Chopper instructed. Sanji failed miserably almost as soon as Chopper started moving his hoof. That's what I feared, said Chopper. You have a severe concussion. Well, that's no big surprise, I said. He did get thrown around a lot. Someone will have to help him get to the center chamber. Chopper nodded. Come on, Sanji. We need to meet up with the others. You can lean on me. I pulled Sanji to his feet. Thanks guys, said Sanji. Chopper took his arm and slung it over his shoulder. Let's go find the others, he said, pointing at the center passage. At that moment, a boom echoed from somewhere below us, shaking the floor. And step on it, I added, marching toward the passage. Ace's pav. That's what happens when you try messing with me twice, I warned, climbing the crumbling stairs to escape the burning room below me. Now then, how do I get to the center chamber? Frankie's pav. I'm very sorry, Miss All Sunday. Miss Double Fingers apologized for the 50th time. We had no idea that you were here. Yeah, please. Go on ahead, said Mr. One, bowing to Robin. The elevator-sized dumbwaiter over there will take you straight to the center chamber. Percy looked about as dumbfounded as I felt right now, but Robin just smiled. Very well, agents. Your loyalty will not be forgotten, she said, striding towards the dumbwaiter. My friends will be coming with me. You are dismissed. As you wish, they both said, vaporizing into nothing. Wow, said Percy. What he said, I said, scratching my head. What was that all about? I worked for Baroque Works before I met Luffy and the others, she said dismissively. Judging by what we just saw, you probably did more than just work there, said Percy as we followed her onto the dumbwaiter. I was second in command, said Robin. Wow, Percy repeated. If only I hadn't left my, that was easy, button on the ship, I mourned. That's not important right now, said Percy. Frankie, can you get this to work? Yeah, I said, examining the controls. It's basically an old-fashioned elevator. If I just tug on this rope here, I said, pulling loose the rope in question. We shot down instantly. Percy and Robin grabbed onto the pole in the center of the platform we were standing on. "Frankie, make it stop," Percy shouted before his voice was carried away in the wind. With another yank, I pulled the rope to a stop. The dumbwaiter jerked to a stop, giving our stomachs a chance to fall back into place. "Let's go slowly," I said. "Agreed," said Robin. And with that, I lowered the dumbwaiter slowly to the bottom of the shaft. "Well, we're here," said Percy. "Just through this hall is the center chamber." "Hang on," I said. "Why is everything still blue?" Usopp's pav. "What's with the blue light?" I asked, stopping to move Sanji onto my back, as he had lost consciousness, and was no longer supporting any of his own weight. "Maybe we're getting closer," said Chopper excitedly. "Chopper, is that you?" came a faint voice from farther down the corridor. "Frankie," I called tentatively. "Usopp?" the voice asked again. No doubt, this time, it was Frankie. "Yeah. I'm here with Robin and Percy. Where are the others?" "I'm here with Chopper and Sanji. Sanji's got a bad concussion, so we might take a while to move him," I called back, exchanging glances with Chopper. "We're all fine here," called Frankie. "We'll come to you. Hold on for a few minutes." "Be ready to guard Sanji," I warned Chopper. "This could be another trap." Chopper nodded, tensing to move at a moment's notice. "Right." We edged slowly through the passage into another chamber. A few, heart-pounding seconds later, Frankie, Robin, and Percy appeared in the passageway across from us. "Oi," called Frankie. "You're here, what's wrong with Sanji?" "Severe concussion," said Chopper. "Percy, do you have anything that could at least temporarily put him back on his feet?" "You mean like a steroid?" asked Percy disgustedly. Then he grinned, and began rummaging in his sack. "I believe I have just the thing." He took a blue pill out of one of his pouches, shoved it in Sanji's mouth, and forced him to swallow. Moments later, his eyes fluttered open. "Percy," he muttered. "What?" Then he saw Robin looking at him with concern. "Robin, my darling. You came to my rescue. You're so brave," he shouted with delight, leaping up to do a dance around a now laughing Robin. "He's fine now," I told Percy adamantly. Percy chuckled. "Well, if we've sorted that out. The Moon Queen's chamber is right there," he said, pointing at the chamber across from our nook we'd found. "Shall we?" And so, we pressed on, the blue, sparkling light following us down the passage. The chamber was guarded by a large, ornate door that looked about as sturdy as bronze. "There's no way in hell we're gonna be able to bust this thing down," Frankie announced, inspecting the door from top to bottom. That was when a holographic image of a pale woman dressed in long, ceremonial robes flickered into view. "The cursed ones may not pass into my domain until they are all present," said the hologram before flickering into nothing. "Crap," cursed Percy. "I forgot that little tidbit. But where are Nami, Zoro, and Luffy?" "Beats me," I said, now very worried. "They should be here by now, but Nami has to carry Luffy and Zoro by herself, so she's probably having trouble moving and guarding them." At that moment, a loud, sharp bang was heard from somewhere close above our heads. The ceiling shook and a thin stream of dark mist crept down the stairs. "That was Nami," said Percy urgently. "I'm sure of it. That mist comes from instant darkness powder, the stuff I gave her." "But that means she's in a jam," said Frankie. "She can't do much with Luffy and Zoro dragging her down. Let's go get them." "No," said Percy. "If we all go, how are we going to find our way back here? When it comes to navigating these tunnels, I'm good, but I'm not that good. A small expedition group should go bring them back." "Right then," said Frankie. "I'll go. Robin and Usopp come with me. Chopper and Percy stay here and look after San." "Too late, Mr. Frankie," said Robin calmly, pointing at the door. "Mr. Cook has already left." Sure enough, Sanji had charged off to look for our 3 missing Nakama while we were talking. "Well, there's no point in going out now," said Percy with a grin. I shook my head in defeat. If Sanji's gone to find them without first checking with us, then he'll bring them back within the next hour. "Percy, how long do you estimate the pill you gave Sanji lasting?" "At least 4 hours," said Percy. "But if it's time you're worried about, there's plenty more steroid pills where that came from," he said mischievously, pulling out a small bag filled with the blue pills from earlier for us to examine under the sparkling, blue light. Disregarding the fact that one of our doctors is putting the concussed one on steroids, I said incredulously. And that our other doctor isn't objecting to it. At this point I was glaring at Chopper. What do we do now? We wait, said Robin, pulling out a book and settling down against the wall. Wait a second, said Frankie. How are you just? Well, if we're gonna wait, I said pointedly. Interrupting Robin's reading was never a good idea. I think we should talk about you two putting Sanji on steroids. Meanwhile with Sanji's POV. Just great, I ranted, storming down an empty passage, following the trail of dark mist. I haven't got a clue what's going on, but Nami's in danger, and those two shitheads with her are probably responsible for this. I'm the only one allowed to pull them back to the group. Sanji, came the exhausted, faint voice of my one true love from farther away. Help, I can't keep these two afloat for much longer, Luffy's sinking like a rock. My call to duty igniting, I rolled up my sleeves, and charged toward the sound of my sweet damsel in distress. Nami my love, don't worry, I'll save you. When I came upon the door of which Nami's voice came out of, I found that it wouldn't open. Nami, my dear? Watch out, I'm about to kick down the door, I warned, raising my worn-out leg. Sanji, I really don't think that's a good, too late. The door already cracked straight down the middle, and burst open, a torrent of water escaping, and sending me smashing into the wall. Sanji, said Nami, the first face I saw when my vision returned to normal, are you okay? It's alright, I said dismissively, Percy and Chopper put me on steroids. Wait, what? Demanded Nami, almost tripping over herself in surprise. That's not the point right now, I said. You look exhausted, are you alright? You're not hurt, are you? Other than being doused in water, a couple of scrapes and scratches, and a faint smell of burnt charcoal, Nami was fine. I'm fine, she said. It's the other two who are at the end of their ropes. Zoro triggered another trap, and we had to escape. I used the instant darkness powder, and one of us must have triggered another trap, since the room we'd just escaped to started to fill with water. Luffy gave out, and we almost drowned before you showed up, she said as if she were stating a list of facts, which she was. Behind Nami, both Luffy and Zoro lay out cold on the cobblestone floor, in a pool of murky, blood-stained water. Zoro's body lay protectively across Luffy's. Both of them already looked dead, but at least we knew better. I crouched down, and placed a hand on Zoro's soaking back. You did good, Zoro. I'll take it from here. Nami, I'll carry Zoro, since he's heavier. Can you carry Luffy? Nami picked up our fragile, unconscious captain, and clutched him close. I got him, she assured me. Very well then, I said, lifting my dying rival into my arms. We found the Moon Queen's chamber. Let's go, I said, leading the four of us back the way I'd came. Zoro's POV, where the hell am I? Was the first thing that came to mouth when I woke up. Nothingness stretched out as far as the eye could see, enveloping everything. Where's everyone? I tried. Well, that was stupid. There's no point in asking questions if no one's here. I wondered briefly if I was back in hell again. It is possible, right? Please, if I'm in the deeper part of hell, then I want the torture back, came a very welcome plead from out of nowhere. I scanned the area frantically before spotting my target. An uncontrollably sobbing person curled up in a little ball, and I sprinted to be by his side. Luffy's POV, that's it, I'm done. I really don't know how, or why, but I'm here, and I'm all alone again. This is even worse than the darkness. At least the darkness had voices to keep me occupied. But this is just nothing. So, I guess now I'm just nothing. Is this the afterlife? If it is, that's a stupid question. Heaven's supposed to be way cooler than this. I bet I'm in hell again. The voices said someday I'd come back, and sink even farther down into hell. That must be this place. I curled into a ball, and hugged my hat close, clinging to my last bit of sanity. But my hat was fading. It was dissolving right in front of me. Please, I pleaded, unable to keep the tears from oh who cares, there's nothing and no one here anyway. If I'm in the deeper part of hell, then I want the torture back. My wish wasn't granted. The nothingness remained, and my hat disappeared right in front of me. I hugged myself and cried harder than I even thought was possible. My hat, my treasure, was gone, and I was all alone. Luffy, came the voice of my salvation. I knew that if this was a trick, I would finally slip into true insanity. But I had to check anyway. I stayed frozen, unable to summon the courage to check. Then, someone put a hand on my back, and I knew. I hugged Roronoa Zoro tight, just to make sure he wouldn't disappear like my hat, and I cried. "I thought you knew better, Captain," said Zoro, crying silently. He wrapped his arms around me, and I knew that whether or not everything was going to be alright, Zoro would be right next to me the whole time. Because we were both scared, but we knew that the other was the one thing preventing insanity from replacing fear. "I thought you knew better, Captain," Zoro repeated. "I'm not like your hat." "I almost forgot," I said, crying harder, burying my face in my best friend's very warm, very real chest, as he did the same to me. "You'll be by my side?" "Till the end of time, Luffy." Nami's pav. When we found the chamber where the others were waiting, I was panicking big time. Luffy's body was getting colder and colder, his breath slowing down as we ran. "Yo Nami," Frankie waved. "Glad to see you're still alive." "If we don't hurry up, these two sure won't be," I snapped. At my words, the chamber door slid open to reveal the source of the blue light. A hovering blue specter dressed in ceremonial robes hovering between two stone beds. "Welcome, weary pirates," said the specter. "I have seen your journey through my final resting place, and I witnessed true bravery for your friends. If you would place the dying ones on the twin altars, I shall begin." Eager to oblige, I gently lay Luffy's cold body on the stone bed, Sanji doing the same with Zoro. The specter shone brilliantly, tendrils of blue sparkling light snaking from her fingertips, down to Luffy and Zoro, and finally, into their chests, enveloping the two of them in the blue light. I could see the warmth of life returning to their bodies, pulling them from the grave once more. Twin beds of blue light lifted the two off the stone beds, and carried them into separate rooms. "Now then, the red-haired girl, and the long-nosed boy may take their places," she ordered. I lay down on the stone bed feeling very apprehensive. But if Luffy and Zoro were healed, then I'd trust the Moon Queen ghost. Her hands shone with the blue light and she began the same process she did on the boys on Usopp and me. I sighed in relief as all the pain and fatigue was sapped from my body. I was almost disappointed when she stopped and told me to get up. While she repeated the process on Sanji and Chopper, then finally, on Robin and Frankie, I noticed that we were glowing. "I feel so pure," Usopp muttered to me. I nodded in agreement. "You may rest here until your friends are ready to depart," said the Moon Queen, turning to leave. "Wait," I called, causing her to pause. "Where will you go now?" She froze, her back still facing us. "Someday, I will see my sister again. When I do, perhaps the both of us will finally be able to rest in peace. Until then, I will rest here, saving the lives of brave heroes like you. Farewell," she said, floating through the opposite wall. "Well," Frankie demanded. "What are we waiting for? Let's go see them." Privately, I agreed. I wanted to see them alive and well again more than anything in the world, but "We can't overwhelm them," said Chopper, Percy nodding in agreement. "We'll go in one at a time to talk to them." "Sounds like a plan," Sanji said nervously. I understood why he was nervous. The others probably felt the same way. We wanted to see them more than anything, but this was really hard. "If it's okay with you guys," said Frankie, "I'll go first." "Good luck," I heard Robin mutter to Frankie before he took a deep breath, and entered the room containing Luffy, Frankie. I ducked under the stone arch, expecting to find Luffy on a bed by himself, instead finding both Luffy and Zoro resting at opposite ends of one large, stone bed. "That can't be very comfortable," I said, rubbing my neck. Luffy and Zoro remained unconscious. "Let's get this over with," I said, leaning against the doorframe. A part of me said I should go into the room, but the rest of me held back. "Just look at yourselves," I said with a chuckle. "Pushed to death and back again, all for our sake." Both still remained unconscious. "I wish you wouldn't do this to yourselves," I continued, taking a seat in between them. "To become the Pirate King, or the world's greatest swordsman, you kinda need to be alive to do it." I gazed over Luffy, then Zoro, taking in the numerous scars decorating their bodies. As a shipwright, I like to study my ship. When she gets so much as a nick, or won't turn at the exact angle Nami wants, or the sail doesn't catch the wind exactly the right way, I want to know why, and how I can fix it for next time. Luffy and Zoro's scars looked just as painful as whatever was done to receive them, but they also did something else. They told stories. Some scars were more recent. Scars from our latest adventure with this curse. Those scars were easy to study because they were familiar. I knew the story, complete with all the pain and sadness behind those scars. Those scars were familiar. Everyone likes what's familiar because there are no surprises. Then there are those scars that depict adventures that happened before I ever met Luffy and the others. Bite marks on Luffy's arms and neck, or the long, hastily done stitch running from Zoro's left shoulder down to his right hip. Those stories I have heard, though through Nami and Sanji, but not seen. I never saw the fish-man pirate Arlong dig his long, razor-sharp shark teeth into Luffy's neck. I never saw the warlord, and current greatest swordsman in the world cut Zoro open like a fish with one sweep of his enormous sword. I never saw the pain behind those scars with my eyes, and that scares me. Then there are the scars that I never heard the story of. The 3 stitches under Luffy's left eye, or a now white mark shaped like a splash of water, or an explosion on the back of Zoro's right fist. Those are the scars that scare me the most. Those are the scars that I know these two have never told a living soul the story of. Maybe each other, but nobody else. Maybe it was just an accident that it happened. Maybe the pain is too deep to even tell their friends. That's the scary part, the unknown. Man, this is hard, I groaned. We'll leave in a moment, but I first want to say this. I can fix myself, or Sunny easily with tools. What I don't know how to fix is you too. You've been through a lot in the past couple of weeks, more than your usual adventures. Scars never heal, but they can fade. Let us help you make them fade. With that, I got up, ducked under the doorway, and joined the others. Who wants to go next? I asked, feeling relieved that my turn was over. Without a word, Robin strode through the door. Guess that answers that, said Usopp, sinking back down onto the floor. I don't know what, but I have the feeling we're forgetting something, said Chopper nervously. Am I the only one? Let it go, Chopper, said Nami. It'll come back to you later. Well, okay, if you're sure, said Chopper, continuing to pace up and down the room. I'll try and make this short, I said, leaning against the wall. I don't know why I'm talking to you two. You can't hear me. If you can hear me, I wish you couldn't. You've done so much for us. You recently gave me back my life, and a purpose to live. You deserve a rest. Captain, you almost died 2 weeks ago saving our lives. Zoro, you also almost died to save your captain's life. But you both did something so amazing just by being incapacitated. I took a moment to reflect. Up until now, Chopper has always been sweet and caring, but naive. In battles, he relies on Luffy, or Zoro, or Sanji, or even me to shield him from harm. Then he does his part after the battle's been lost or won, healing our wounds. But now, with Luffy and Zoro's lives in danger, he performed 3 operations, 2 on Luffy, 1 on Zoro, without panicking and calling for a doctor. He stepped up to his role as doctor, placing Luffy and Zoro's lives in his hands. When it came time to fight, he shielded Luffy and Zoro, then a concussed Sanji from harm all on his own. Up until now, Nami has been authoritative when it comes to keeping the ship on course and in good shape. But when the time comes for a fight, she too relies on stronger fighters to protect her. But now, when she was left alone in the labyrinth with the hurt, feverish, and unconscious bodies of Luffy and Zoro, she kept them alive, fighting the obstacles all on her own, all while protecting her friends from danger. Up until now, Sanji has never shown outward care or protectiveness towards any male member of the crew, especially Luffy and Zoro. But now, with his captain and his greatest rival at death's door, I saw Sanji carry Zoro the entire way to the temple without so much as a grumble, and I saw him stay awake by their sides every night, beating himself up for not doing more to keep them safe. One night, I saw him whisper calming words in Luffy's ear when he began to whimper. Another night, I saw him rush worriedly to Chopper because Zoro's fever had spiked and he was thrashing about in bed, and I watched him help Chopper give Zoro an ice bath, wrapping his arms around Zoro in a fierce hug to prevent him from screaming in pain. I smiled and turned to the door, ready to leave. You reminded us what it means to be a family. With that, I rejoined the others in the chamber room. Me next, said Chopper, trotting into Luffy and Zoro's chamber. Hey, said Usopp, looking up from his project, counting how much ammunition he had left. Aren't we forgetting something? No, said Sanji. It's your imagination. Okay, if you say so, said Usopp, returning to his counting. I found Luffy and Zoro fast asleep when I entered the room. Well, that's good. They need the, I started to say before Luffy tensed in his sleep. Stop, he muttered, frowning slightly, leave him alone. What's going on? I know Luffy, Zoro and Sanji talk a lot, and I mean a lot in their sleep, but I've never heard Luffy sound so frantic in his sleep. Then it was Zoro's turn to tense, his frown deepening. Don't touch him. Zoro jerked so violently in his sleep that he smacked his head against the concrete table he was resting on. Zoro, I shrieked, scurrying around to check his head. Thankfully, Zoro was thick-headed enough to avoid reconcussing himself. Stop, leave him alone. Don't touch him. Stop, leave him alone. Don't touch him. Over and over again, like a broken record, they murmured in their sleep. Beads of sweat formed on Luffy's pale brow while Zoro's face turned milky white. Oh, I get it, I said, hopping up onto the table. It took a good 5 minutes, but I managed to push the two within an inch of each other. For good measure, I moved Luffy's hand so that it was touching Zoro's. When I left the room to rejoin my friends, I found Usopp, Nami and Sanji listening at the door. We heard them talking, said Nami. What happened? I smiled sadly. Sometimes we just need some outside help to survive our nightmares. Thankfully, not a single one of my friends looked at me as if I were crazy. They've all experienced it many times before, the never-ending nightmares. The worst one of all was the one I was 100% positive Luffy and Zoro were facing right now. Abandonment, the death of someone precious, in their cases, each other. Sometimes that outside help just needs to be confirmation, I said. Sure enough, no more dazed, frantic muttering drifted out of the Demon Twins' chamber. The nightmare was over. Luffy was still alive. That was enough to put Zoro's mind at peace. Zoro was still breathing. Luffy could rest easy now. Sweet dreams, Luffy, Zoro, I said softly as Usopp slipped into the room. You know, I think I'm catching it, said Frankie. We're definitely forgetting something. For the last time, drop it, said Nami through gritted teeth. Just as Frankie, Robin and Chopper had done. I crept into Luffy and Zoro's chamber only to gaze in awe at how very vulnerable our captain and his first mate looked at that very moment, sprawled on a stone dais, holding hands, fast asleep. Glad to see that you're both still alive, I said awkwardly, then brightened. The brave and mighty Captain Usopp fended off guards and attackers from all directions as I lead the others through the perilous seas, through the treacherous jungle, and through the foreboding ruins of this temple to save your lives. You should really be thanking me on bended knees, but obviously, you're in no condition. I trailed off. What am I saying? They can't hear me, and I have no right to lie to them in their sleep. But this time, was it really that much of a lie? If I'd never gone out to sea with Luffy, Zoro and Nami, that would definitely be a blatant lie. Nobody would see through it, not even me. But now, was it really such a lie? I faced adventures I could never even fabricate about, facing God, defeating fishmen pirates, escaping a naval fortress with an octopus. I've lived the greatest lie I've never told, all thanks to Luffy. Luffy let me aboard his crew, but my real test was Zoro. I'm gonna face Mihawk, whether you like it or not. Are you coming? I'll be right behind you. That was when Zoro smirked, and the invisible wall he'd surrounded himself with broke down, like it did with Luffy, then Nami. I'm getting sidetracked in my own thoughts. You're both incredible warriors in your own rights. But this adventure has taught me that when the great fall, the not-so-great liar can act as a crutch. That's not a lie, is it? No reaction. Of course not. Why should there be? I'll go now. You two are two of the greatest men I know. That's no lie either, I said, rising to my feet. I should really have done this a long time ago, I blurted out. I turned to the exit. How could I possibly have said that? I can't say it out loud, can I? Well, I owe them my thanks, that's no lie. Thank you for continuing to let me live out my greatest lie. No, scratch that. I gulped and turned back for one more look at my sleeping friends. Thank you for continuing to let me live out my greatest truth. You know, I think Frankie's got a point, I heard Sanji saying as I re-entered the room. We are most definitely forgetting something. Shut up, shut up, shut up, said Nami. We are not forgetting anything, you got that? Who wants to go next? I asked the room at large, glancing pointedly at Nami and Sanji, the only two left. Percy had already said he would see them when we cast off. Nami made a strangled noise like a frightened squirrel and ninja kicked Sanji, sending him flying into Luffy and Zoro's chamber. Very subtle, said Frankie with a grin. Nami sucker punched him, her face as red as a beetroot. Shut up. I just don't know what I want to say yet. Sure, said Frankie, carefully avoiding what he so dearly wanted to say. Nami was too scared to face them. But why? Sanji ow. Nami was of course the most beautiful and dazzling human being on the earth, along with Robin, obviously. But did she have to kick me so hard? I guess it's my turn, then, I said begrudgingly, turning to face the room. I may have gone second to last, but no amount of preparation could possibly prepare me for seeing the idiot rubber captain, and the shitty moss head so broken in front of me. I'm sort of glad you're asleep. It makes my job a hell of a lot easier, I said awkwardly. I've never been very good with words. Moss head. Usually one of us blows up at the other and we spar instead of talking. And I'm so used to kicking you out of the kitchen, Luffy, that I can't remember the last time we had a proper conversation. No reaction. This wasn't surprising, considering what the others said. I faltered. I can't protect the others on my own anymore. Even sweet Nami turned into a battle demon just to protect your sorry asses, and I couldn't do a thing about it. I remembered turning the corner and finding Nami's voice, pleading for help from behind a wall as the three of them slowly drowned. I remembered the dark circles under everyone's eyes as we fought to keep them alive when crossing the sea. I remembered Chopper's breakdown because no, he wasn't good enough, and no, he didn't know why Luffy and Zoro weren't getting any better, and all he could do was restrain them and watch as they writhed and cried in fear or pain, begging for people Chopper didn't know existed. But most of all, I remembered the scary truth and the fact that I couldn't treat these two the same anymore. I couldn't kick either one all over the place and expect them to get up again. More than anything, this whole experience proved to me that despite all evidence that says otherwise, you're both human. So you better wake up soon. I broke off, the rest of the sentence dying in my throat. And it had good reason to. For a very wide-awake Luffy was regarding me with dazed curiosity. Luffy? I asked softly, using every ounce of my control to contain my excitement. Luffy refocused his gaze onto the ceiling. This isn't real, it's another nightmare. What makes you say that? I asked. The real Sanji never looks that happy to see me, said Luffy. The real Sanji would have kicked me in the face already. I gritted my teeth. It's nice to see you too, Captain. Luffy sighed. Definitely a dream. I smacked him lightly over the head. Do I really have to hit some sense into you, you rubber idiot? I am Sanji. I emphasized, ignoring his wince. Is it true? He asked, shattering my stony resolve. He sounded as broken as he looked. The poor guy probably didn't know what to believe in right now. He reached out a hand tentatively. Is it really you, Sanji? I smacked his hand away. That's what I've been trying to tell you, idiot. Luffy's broken demeanor cracked as his face split into a wide grin. His rubbery arms wrapped around me in a bear hug. It really is you. He let go long enough for me to regain my breath. Luffy, stop that. I scolded to no avail. Luffy continued poking Zoro relentlessly. Zoro, wake up. Come on Zoro, Sanji's here. Zoro groaned. Luffy, let me go. But Zoro, you gotta wake up, don't wanna. I stifled a chuckle, any second now. Come on Zoro, Luffy whined. Zoro's eyes fluttered open dramatically. I love being right. What is it now, Luffy? He mumbled. Where are we now? Couldn't you have let me have my dreamless sleep for just a little longer? Or is it time to pay the piper yet? Luffy shook his head vigorously. This time it's real, Zoro, he said happily. That's really Sanji. Zoro finally noticed me, for real this time. That really you, Cook? In the flesh, I said, waiting, what would he do next? Zoro sat up shakily, leaning heavily on Luffy. Forgive me if I don't believe you. Since when are you so formal, Mosshead? I chuckled. But, Zoro, said Luffy. He hasn't hurt us yet, how can he be another? You don't know that, Luffy, said Zoro. Maybe he's waiting for us to really believe him, then turn into one of those things again. Luffy looked scared. Really? I don't know, Zoro said darkly. Remember our rule? Stick close, and we won't disappear like the others did. I'm real, Luffy, I'll stay by your side. Luffy nodded. Right, and I won't let them hurt you again. I fell back against the wall, the hopelessness hitting me in the gut. Luffy and Zoro remained on the bed, too weak to move, and waited for my next move. I regarded the tired faces of my captain and his first mate, so full of fear and mistrust, and realized that no matter how much we'd been through to save them, they might never trust us the same way again, never knowing if they were in reality, or another nightmare. The only thing they seemed sure of anymore was the existence of each other. "This is ridiculous," I said, getting to my feet, and slamming my foot onto the table in front of them. "You want to know if I'm the real Sanji?" "Yes," said Luffy. Zoro remained silent. "You can decide that on your own," I spat. "But I can tell you this." I pointed out the doorway. "That's your real crew waiting out there. Would a fake crew have risked their lives to haul your dying asses up here in hopes of saving you based on a legend that might not even be real?" Luffy and Zoro glanced at each other. "Good, I'm getting somewhere. You think it's only been the two of you this whole time, but you're wrong. We haven't left your sides once since this started. We protected you, but now we need you again," I continued. "That's your family out there. I've had to protect them on my own, but I can't do it anymore. They've changed, learning how to manage without you in a fight. So, come back," I shouted, throwing caution to the winds. "Raid the fridge again. Get lost so we have to go find you again, and fight with me again. Just come back into the picture." I felt a hand on my knee. Zoro looked so hopeful it made me want to laugh. "Is that really you, Arrow Cook?" "No, I'm the cyborg," I snorted. "Of course it's me, idiot." Zoro and Luffy broke into identical grins. "Knew it," both said at once. I took a deep breath and counted to 10. "If you knew it," I said through gritted teeth, "then why the hell did you let me break down like that?" The demon twins winced at the loud noise. "Because if you were in our shoes," Zoro trailed off. "You'd know that we've had this dream before," Luffy finished. "Do you know how the dream always ends?" asked Zoro. "You, or any of the others turned into winged demons," said Luffy. "And tell us that our friends are never coming back." I allowed a smile. "It's okay now. Really, it's really over." Both of them attempted to stand, to no avail. "Fine," I grumbled half-heartedly. I slung an arm over each shoulder. "I'll help, but just this once, mind you. I'll make sure it never happens again," Zoro assured me. "Now let's get a move on," I told the two. "There's a group outside that's been dying to see you, Nami." The day couldn't have been more perfect. The sky reflected the ocean in a beautiful, cornflower blue. The clouds were as fluffy as Chopper's cotton candy, and the sunny sailed along, creating a gentle, rippling breeze across the grass deck. I wish I could say the same for the people on the ship. Luffy and Zoro were back, and almost at full health again. And yet, the rest of us couldn't help but tiptoe around the two, almost as if they were glass, fragile enough to break at the slightest touch. Only Sanji was brave enough to treat the two as he always had, only giving them slightly larger portions than everyone else at mealtime. In a way, they weren't helping either. Neither would talk to anyone except each other. The two stayed in the observation tower all day, only coming down, albeit reluctantly, for meals. Luffy must have trained up there with Zoro, because both had regained some of their lost muscle. Days passed, and the only thing I could think of was how everyone spoke to Luffy and Zoro while they were unconscious. So why didn't I? I suppose that's the question I'd spent all those days trying to answer. "You want to have a go, Moss Breath?" roared Sanji from behind me. "Bring it on, Love Cook," retorted Zoro, feebly echoing Sanji's battle cry. I turned back to observe the brewing battle. I couldn't help noticing how much bigger, stronger, and more menacing Sanji looked than Zoro. Zoro didn't give off the demon intent anymore, only pain. Luffy, sitting on the tree swing, gave off the same air. "Sanji, stop it," I said, on instinct. Sanji started towards Zoro anyway, only to restrain him from charging at me. "She didn't mean it, Moss Head," said Sanji, all traces of irritation gone. "Let it go." "Let him go, Sanji," said a stone-faced Luffy. Luffy looked calm enough, but the muscles in his arms and legs were tense, prepared to strike, should either Sanji or I try to hurt Zoro. Sanji backed off, giving Zoro a wide berth. Instead of pouncing on me, Zoro looked at Luffy. "You won't hurt them?" said Luffy. It wasn't an order. No, it was more of a question. Zoro gazed down at his swords, almost mesmerized at their presence. He shook his head vigorously and sheathed them again. "No, I won't," he said at last. "Come on Luffy, let's go." With that, the two retreated back to the observation tower. "Sanji, what just happened?" I asked, still dumbfounded that Zoro, of all people, would try and hurt me. Sanji pinched the bridge of his nose and sighed. "You're mothering them," he said, leaning against the kitchen door. "Mothering them?" I repeated. "Yeah," said Sanji, looking perfectly serious. "Things will only go back to normal if you treat them normally." "I am treating them normally," I protested. "No, you're not, and you know it," said Sanji. "None of you are. The real Nami doesn't treat them like they're about to break at any second. Luffy and Zoro went to hell and back again. How are they supposed to trust you again if you're not yourself?" "I know that," I said hotly. Sanji put a hand on my shoulder. "I know. But it's all over now. The only thing left that can hurt them is themselves. You know what you can do to help, right?" I smacked away his hand. "Of course I do." With one hand on the ladder to the observation deck, I turned back to Sanji with a grin. "Thanks Sanji." "You're welcome, Nami dear," he cried from the kitchen. When I reached the top of the ladder, I wasn't sure what to expect. "Nami?" asked Luffy. "What took you so long?" grunted Zoro. "I definitely wasn't expecting that." "You were expecting me?" I asked cautiously, pulling myself up over the ladder. "Well, yeah," said Luffy. "If only to explain what just happened," said Zoro. They glanced briefly at each other before slumping in defeat. "What do you want to know?" asked Luffy. "This doesn't guarantee we'll answer," Zoro reminded me. "Just say what you need to." I sat carefully on the bench. "First, how much do you remember before waking up in the temple?" Luffy scratched his head. "I really can't tell. Our dreams were so realistic, it's hard to say what was a dream and what wasn't." "Do you remember helping me defeat Blue Crocodile?" I tried. Zoro frowned in disbelief. "So that wasn't a dream?" "If I remember it, what do you think, dumbass?" I retorted. When I called Zoro a dumbass, I noticed the clenched muscles in his arms relax. The corners of Luffy's mouth twitched. "Just a little bit, mind you. When you said we didn't need to protect you anymore, we didn't mean you had to protect us," said Luffy. "By the way, giving us space isn't protecting us," said Zoro. "That just makes the dreams versus reality thing worse." Sanji was right after all, then. What I thought was helping them heal was actually hurting them more. "We haven't been very good friends to you, huh?" I said softly. "You were just trying to help," Luffy tried to reassure me. "How about this?" I decided. "When I first met you two, we made a promise to always have each other's backs, no matter what happens." "What about it?" asked Zoro. "I vote we renew that promise," I said quickly, eager to get the words out of my mouth. I reached out a hand. "But now, we have to promise to stay true to each other, no matter what happens." Luffy grinned. It was a real grin this time. I could finally see the old Luffy again. He put his hand on top of mine. "I like it." Zoro smirked. Zoro never smiles, only smirks. This was the first real Zoro smirk I'd seen in a long time. The old Zoro was back. He put his hand on top of the pile. "You know," said Luffy, "it's only official once we drink on it." He and I looked expectantly at Zoro. "Fine," he said grumpily. "I keep a bottle up here for emergencies." "Emergencies?" I echoed. Zoro brought the bottle out from behind his weights. "Not important right now." He placed 3 sake cups on top of his stack of weights, and poured the drink. Luffy held up his cup. "Tar Nakama, Tar Nakama?" Zoro and I echoed, clinking our cups with Luffy's. "You know we're more than Nakama now, right?" asked Luffy after downing his sake. "Huh?" I asked, confused. "Do I want to know what we are now?" "We're brothers and sister now," said Zoro. "Is there something wrong with that?" I looked hard at my new brothers. Gone were the looks of cornered animals, the pain, the betrayal. All that remained were such open, trusting faces, that it was hard to believe they were the same people from 2 hours ago. I grinned. I liked the sound of that. Just as we were having our big bonding moment, Frankie poked his head in the doorway. "I've still got that feeling that we're forgetting something. Am I the only one?" "By the way," said Luffy, downing the rest of his sake, "where's Ace?" Frankie went as pale as I felt. Zoro and Luffy just looked confused. "Frankie," said Zoro slowly. "What's going on?" Frankie slid down the ladder and hollered, "We forgot Ace." Ace, after a long detour back to the village, I finally found the shoreline. Finally, now to find Luffy and the others and get out of here, I declared. I hope Luffy and Zoro are okay now. I reached the docks only to find them devoid of any pirate ships. "Excuse me?" I asked the nearest fisherman. "Would you happen to know where that ship with a lion's head went?" He pointed at a ship on the horizon, slowly getting smaller and smaller. "That's them. They left a while ago." "Were you part of their group?" I sighed. "No, I guess not. I can't believe they forgot me. Well, it was time I went back to my hunt anyway. Edward Teach, I'm coming for you."